Hello my fellow Rubyists. In today's video I'm going to take a minute and show you how I set up Flowbite components in a Rails 8 application using import maps and a sprinkling of stimulus. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is create my new Rails project. I'm going to call it Easy Notes, and you can see here I've marked it for CSS Tailwind, skip JBuilder, and skip system test. Now I'm going to CD into my new project. Now I'm going to change the directory to the vendor folder and then JavaScript. And now I'm going to use curl to pull down the flowbite.turbo.min.js file, and this is the Flowbite build that is compatible with Rails Turbo. Now back in the vendor directory, I need to create some subdirectories for our style sheet, and it's going to be under assets and then style sheets. And once again, I'm going to use curl to pull down the Flowbite style sheet. And I will have the URLs to these two, the CSS and the JavaScript file in the description below. So now I've opened up the project in Windsurf, and as you can see under the vendor directory, we have our JavaScript file. And under assets, style sheets, we have our Flowbite CSS file. It's safe to go ahead and delete these two keep files, since there are now files in the directories. Next thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to set up the Flowbite JavaScript file as an import map. I need to open the import map.rb file and then pin Flowbite, as you see here. And then I'm going to want to import this in the main application JavaScript file. And the last thing I'm going to want to do is in the Tailwind config file, because I'm going to want to support light and dark mode, I'm going to tell it that I want to support it through CSS classes. That should be everything we need as far as the JavaScript is concerned. But now I need to go to my application layout file and I need to add a style sheet tag. So I'm just going to copy that. And that should be everything we need. In order to ensure that our two files are downloading to the browser, I'm going to create a home controller. Now I'm going to start Rails. Now I'm going to jump over to the browser and test this out. And I can see that we're getting an error, and I know why we're getting this error. I named the CSS file flowbite.min.css, but in the code I did not import it as such, so I need to make a change there. And now back in our browser, it looks like we're able to load our home index. I'm going to inspect and check our sources. And as you can see here, we have Tailwind, we have Flowbite, our CSS file, and we have Flowbite, our JavaScript file. So it looks like we're ready to go. In the past, I've had problems with Cursor generating code using older versions of Flowbite. And so what I've done in the last couple of projects that seems to help with that is to actually download the markdown documentation for Flowbite components, which you can actually find on their GitHub repo. You can either download the repo as a zip file or you can clone it if you know how to do that with Git. But it's essentially in their content folder, and then you see components and you see all of these markdown files. As you can see, I have those in my project now under Flowbite docs. I downloaded the components as well as some of the other documentation they have. Something else I've done on projects that I've worked on in the past is to create or copy over this cursor rules file. Today I'm using Windsurf, so it is not automatically going to be added to the context, but in Cursor this file is automatically added to the context with each prompt, and essentially just goes over the project, what technologies are being used, and versions of those technologies. I will put a GitHub link to a copy of this cursor rules file in the description below. I'm going to jump right in with some Flowbite components, and I'm going to ask it to add a nav bar to the top of the page and a mobile-friendly sidebar. To do that, I'm going to add in the files, the nav bar, these are the Flowbite documents. I'm not completely sure it's necessary with these agents in Windsurf and also in Cursor. It seems to pick up these things, but this might give it a little bit of a hint and make it easier. So we can see here it is done, and there are several ways that I can accept these changes. Clearly there's an accept all changes here. We have an accept all over here at the bottom of the cascade panel. We also have our blue toolbar, which is really cool, that allows us to accept all of the changes or navigate between the changes in the file. You can see here it's doing that with the up and down arrows. And the side-to-side errors, if it made a change to more than one file, would allow me to navigate between those files. I'm going to go ahead and use the toolbar and accept this. And it saves the file automatically when I do that. So let's go back to the browser and see what we have. Okay, and this looks pretty good so far. We have a dashboard and we have notes. Of course, we don't have a route for notes yet, but that's okay. We can work on that next. Now, the main thing is to make sure that the JavaScript is working for Flowbite. And you can see when I downsize the browser to a mobile device size, that we get our hamburger menu, and the JavaScript that opens up and closes the sidebar is indeed functioning. One of the things I really like about Flowbite is that it doesn't require custom JavaScript in order to make their components work. For example, the sidebar expanding and collapsing, that's all handled with attributes on the HTML elements. Like you can see here on this button, we have data drawer toggle, logo sidebar, area controls, logo sidebar, and then come down here and you can see that the ID of this aside, which is our sidebar, shares the same name as the data attribute. And so when the page loads, and since we're using the turbo version of Flowbite, whenever the page reloads because of turbo, it will rebind these elements together and insert the necessary JavaScript. Before I go any further, I'm going to ask Cascade to do a little bit of refactoring. I would like it to pull the nav bar and the sidebar out into partials. This is something that would be easy to do myself, but I wouldn't be demonstrating AI if I did it myself. Went ahead and accepted all those changes. Now I'm going to go back to the browser and make sure everything still works, and it does. And that's cleaner. That's a cleaner look. Now I'm going to ask the AI to add a light dark mode toggle to the right hand side of the nav bar. I've added a couple of files to the context. It's the dark mode toggle documentation from Flowbite, and then the theming guide. And I've asked it to use a stimulus controller for the JavaScript. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and accept all of those changes. And I can see already we're in dark mode, and our light dark mode seems to be working other than this little original text that's here, but that's okay. That's going to go away anyway. A real quick look at the stimulus controller that it generated for this. It looks like it's storing the preference in local storage. By default, it is actually using the window match media, so it's going to honor whatever the operating system has in place. Looking at the file, it appears to me that there's a lot of repeated code in here. I'm going to ask if it can refactor this any and pull some of these out into individual functions. And it looks like it's cut out some lines of code here. It looks like an improvement, so let's go ahead and accept that. And it's definitely a cleaner looking file. But let's make sure it still works. And it does. So here's an example of just how you can iteratively improve the code that gets generated by AI. Overall, I think it does a pretty good job, but given the chance to refactor it, it seems like it is able to even make it look a little bit better. I'm going to stop this video here. My main goal for this video was to demonstrate how to set up Flowbite in a Rails 8 application and just some general guidance on how to make it work well with the AI. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like this content, subscribe to my channel. And we'll see you in the next one.